It's 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, Friday the 13th October of 2023. And here we are, live streaming for the first time, our pilot live stream for our RT Squared show. So welcome, everyone. Welcome who's joined us today. How are you feeling, Toaster?
I'm feeling very well, thanks there, Ron, and good afternoon. I guess it is over here, but good evening. Good evening to you.
It is. Yes, it is. I need to remind myself you're 3 hours behind. It's so dark here in Melbourne. It's 8 p.m. But in your side of the world, it's only what 5 p.m. Is it?
That's correct. Would you like me to shed a bit of sunlight on the cast here, and I can turn on a webcam, a live view that I have at our backyard here.
I'm sure the viewers will love to see some sun. It's been in the afternoon, quite a bit of rain here in Melbourne on the way back to work. This is the outfit that I wear from work. Yeah, it was raining, but yeah, would love to see some sun. Nice weather in what you're in Shark Bay, is it?
So let me. That's the live view out of the backyard here. So as you can see, yep, still daylight here. So Shark Bay is up 800 kilometers north of Perth. So we're still a ways up the coastline, heading south slowly. But interesting fact is about 40 k's in the direction of that camera. In fact, you can see a little speck of land.
Yeah.
That just on the other side of that is the most westerly point of the continent of Australia. It's called Steep Point.
Nice.
And that's actually the reason why. That's the reason why we picked this location, is because part of our journey is we wanted to mark the most westerly extreme, or I guess most westerly extreme part of Australia. So yeah, that's in the town we're in now, which is called Denham. They have the most westerly public EV charger. So that's why we're here.
Nice. When have you been there? Or are you when are you going there?
So we're not going to go to Steep Point because it's a ways away. You kind of need a 4-wheel drive, but this town has the most westerly charger. So I'll go and charge there in the next day or two and do a check-in in PlugShare. So if anybody's a PlugShare user, go and check it out.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to see comments come through. Thanks for joining us in our pilot episode, Mr. Phil Tran. Yeah, it's our pilot live stream. I'm not sure everyone is familiar with the term why it's called pilot. So if you know what the answer is, just pop them in the comments. It is our pilot live stream. I don't know how long this is going to take, so we'll play it by ear. But we do have not a lot of agenda items, but we'll start off with some intros, and we have a burning topic here. We're going to talk about a burning topic today, isn't it, Toaster?
This is very true. Yep. We've scoured the internet, you especially so, and come up with this burning issue. So we'll definitely dig into that.
Yeah. Well, when I was when we were planning this live stream, I don't know what topic to discuss that would interest people, and I saw this being very appropriate, especially for people who are sort of not yet bought into an EV. So this is going to be one of those things that will play in their minds, whether they would like to jump in or they want to wait and see. So we'll get to that. We'll pause that for now, but I think the first agenda item is meet your host. So my name is Ron, and I own and operate. Sounds like a business, but it is a business. I think once it you get all those views and ad revenue and stuff, it will start to feel like a business. So I own and operate Autos and Gizmos. It's and for those who don't know me, I'm Melbourne based, dad of two, married for 25 years to the same woman, of course. I'm an IT worker by day, and a YouTuber by night and weekends. Obviously, those are the only times when I can do these DIY work on predominantly cars that my daughter drive, and that's how I got started. My daughter needed a car, and I want her to be able to use Apple CarPlay navigation, streaming music through the dash, and I thought I'll install this Android head unit. And then my worry was that because I don't have any background pulling things apart out of the car, and I thought I'll record myself doing it, so if I screw up, I can watch me do it and I can backtrack. And then I finished all that, and I thought, well, I have this video, I might as well upload it. And that's when it all started. So did that, maybe 3 years ago. It was just a low quality video. I was using a free video editor. I'm not sure what I was using. Low quality microphones, the audio is terrible. But surprisingly, a lot of people viewed it. A lot of people find that kind of information useful, because I think people wanted to, save their car, their beloved car, and especially when they see more cars that CarPlay and Spotify streaming. It's either you spend $500 to get the head unit, or you spend $30,000 to get a car. So I think that's the value proposition that I offer for the viewers on my channel, is that you can DIY it, but some people are afraid to sort of jump into like ripping things apart out of their car, especially the plastics. It's easy to break it if you're pulling it the wrong way. Is it a clip? Is it a screw? But if you can see someone do it, it's easier. Much like, I think, baking. Back in the old days, you read a recipe, right, on a book, and you try to follow it. It just doesn't come out right, because obviously not everything is on the piece of paper. But if you're seeing someone do it on the video, and how they do things, and how long to mix it, what the consistency you're looking at, it makes it easier. Same with DIYing stuff. If you can see the result, then it makes it easier to sort of do that yourself. So that's me. I think I spent too much already. I'll hand over to the co-host of this pilot live stream, Mr. Toaster.
Thank you, Ron, and thanks everybody for joining. Looks like we've got a few viewers in there. Probably some of them are people, family, and friends. Certainly seeing some names we recognize, obviously, in the chat here. So yeah, I guess probably most people on the chat might know me as Richard. That's where the R in the RT squared comes from. But on YouTube, I go by the name Toaster, and have a newish channel, Aussie 8. So the wife and I, who also has a YouTube channel, the coach, decided to sell up and actually do a big lap of Australia. So we're digital nomads. She's the bigger digital nomad than I am, in terms of actually having a real business, money-making business online, and I'm kind of along for the ride, but enjoying my early months here of YouTubing. So we're doing a slow figure 8 lap of Australia. We're about 12,000 kilometers in so far, and we've only really touched the north and west of the country. So we've still got a ways to go. I predict we probably won't finish our journey until Christmas next year. So hopefully a lot of content
that's
to
a lot of
come.
miles to cover, Mr. Toaster.
Yeah, I couldn't actually find, and well, obviously we're doing lots of side trips, so it's going to be more than what I put on the slide there, but it's at least 25,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
I know that for the lap just going around the edge on Highway 1, I think people quote 15,000 kilometers. So that's a lot of miles in an EV. Yeah, so part of what I'm doing and we're doing is showing the world that you can do it. You obviously have to slow down, but we're kind of, I guess, of the at the point in our lives now where we're happy to slow down and life is not a rat race. So yeah, we're enjoying our time out here.
Yeah. I think when you started your lap of Australia, your Model Y was what, like 5,000 kilometers, is it, or something along those lines? How much have you added so far when you started this whole lap of Australia?
So we've added 12,000 kilometers, so almost a lap's worth, a lap around Highway 1. So yeah, we've done lots of side trips. Again, we're in no rush, so we've been off to Kakadu, which was a nice, beautiful side trip. So yeah, we're definitely racking up the K. So yeah, it's 12,000 Ks in just over 3 months.
That's yep, that's a lot. I think we're now at par. Both are wise. I think that's where and I forgot to mention RT Squared. That's the name of the YouTube channel. Both of us have the same initial, but the similarities doesn't end there. I think we ordered our Model Y on the same day. We got it on the same month, I think, probably a week or two apart. Right now we both have our own our Model Ys. Obviously, you have a red, I have a blue Model Y, but yeah, I think you're going to surpass my mileage by the end of the year. Probably have we're 2 months or 3 months 3 months out, and I think you'll do at least maybe another 15 or 15 thousand kilometers, and by the time you're through, you probably do 50 or something. That's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah.
But not a lot compared to the other guys who have done. I think there was one Model S. Was it like 1 million kilometers or something?
I'm aware of a Model X in California that was a limo that had done 300,000 miles, which is about, in fact, it was more than that. That's about 500,000 kilometers. But I mean, there's been EVs on the road now for well over 10 years, if not more. So they're certainly starting to rack up the Ks.
Yep. I think it's in between us. We have 60,000 kilometers worth of driving experience on an EV. So over, I guess, we'll try to make this live stream show as regular as we can, if we can, and we'll sort of think of topics, what to discuss. I think another big thing, and Phil here, charging experience. I think that's another big thing from potential EV buyers. Well, how do you charge? What's your charging infrastructure? How do you charge at home? I think that's the most important thing. How do you charge at home? I think if you live in an apartment block, I think that's a bit more challenge. But if you live in a house or detached, I think it's easier because I think when you said this, because you have, this is your second EV, and I think I remember you saying just treat it as like a phone where you charge at night, and that's how I've been looking at it. It's a device that I charge.
Yeah. For those of us on this podcast that have got EVs, we know that the ideal time to be charging is at home and at night, right, while you're sleeping. So I think if you're not in an apartment block, if you've got your home or you have a garage or carport or whatever, that is probably the most ideal. If you're then doing road trips, fast DC charging is obviously what you really need, and that's becoming better on the East Coast, especially in the populated areas of Australia. So I think the two categories where it's tricky, and Phil touches on one of them, is the remote areas of Australia, and the other one is what you touched on, Ron, which is apartment blocks and places where it's shared parking. Those are the two ones that so I think the remote one is being solved as more EVs start doing trips like we do. So the infrastructure is being built. And in fact, if you've watched some of my videos, you'll see I've been to charging places that are about to open in WA. So they've sort of gone on the front foot and decided to spend a lot of money building out a network across the top and bottom of WA.
Did you get free charging there? Did you
get
free charging to those?
I have been getting free charging, but it's run through, most of the sites are run through ChargeFox, and obviously they want to make their dollar. So I think it's just in the early days. Some of them are free.
Yeah. I mean, when was the last time petrol stations were giving away free fuel? I don't think it ever happened.
Yeah.
Another benefit.
I did calculation recently. We had done what was it? 12,000 kilometers, and we'd spent maybe just over $400 on charging, because a lot of the charging we have done has been free at our accommodation. The owners have been very accommodating. If we stay there for a few nights or whatever, for us to just plug in and trickle charge, which again, like I said, is ideal. If you can plug in at home and do a slow charge, that's the way to go.
Yep, exactly. Okay, well, I think let's move on to the next piece in the agenda. So the YouTube journey. I think we sort of touched upon our journey a bit, but in terms of stats, this stat is from a website.
Ron, you love your stats. You love your stats.
Yeah, this is so they actually scrape through the information that YouTube shares with them, so you can actually see a projection of where it is, how many subscribers or views you get. And obviously this sort of encourages, well, at least for me, encourages me to strive for more, because I can see the sort of upward projection. And if you can see, Rich, if you notice, we're also in lockstep here. Look at that. It's like I started 3 years ahead of you in this YouTube journey, but then look at the trajectory. It's like we're running in parallel.
I guess that's why they call us. That's why they call us RT squared, right?
RT squared. So subscriber growth. I think my channel average maybe two subscribers a day. I've seen, I guess the popular ones would have like 1,000 a day. It's like one of the recent popular YouTuber based in Australia, Ryan Cohen. I'm not sure whether you're familiar. He was invited. I think he was invited to the big EV convention in I forgot where it is, Texas, where he sort of because obviously people have started to recognize his the work that he does in raising awareness with EVs, and they invited him over in the US, and his sort of subscriber growth just sort of just went up like that. I had a chance to meet him in one of the meetup he organized here, just around the neighborhood here. So he, all the Model Ys, all the Tesla owners parked the car near a park, and yeah, we just caught up and chatted along. I think back then he had like 20,000 subscribers or even less, but now he's like, I think 60,000 subscribers. And I think he recently announced that he would stop his full-time work and focus on YouTube, because obviously he's generating enough revenue, not just in ad revenue, but I think he also has affiliate marketing revenue, which is probably, Rich, you want to have a look at. Creating affiliate links so you get commission Yeah. What's your goal for the channel, Toaster? What's your goal?
I think mine is about sharing our experience both on the trip, just in general. So often people do a figure eight of Australia, and obviously doing it in EV is unique. So there's definitely sharing our experiences on that. But I think we are, I'm kind of early in my journey in YouTube and just trying to find a niche in terms of what resonates, because there's obviously a lot of content out there. But definitely not as much about EVs and charging in remote areas. So definitely some of my videos have focused on that. But I think, as I get used to being on camera and doing it, showing a little bit more of what we're doing as a family. Obviously, Barney, our beloved dog, features heavily in our videos. And in fact, I've now got to the point where I think if I don't have at least a cameo of him in, people wonder if he's okay. He is 16 years old, so it's probably good just to allow people to check in on Barney. So we just, there's also an opportunity. We've kind of scaled back some of the other social media channels, Lisa and I. So if people do want to see what we're up to, but again, it's more of a focus, obviously, on the car. They can tune in on YouTube.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of I think EV ownership lately, especially with the Model Y being I think the most popular one in the world. Is it in the world right now? So there'll be more need for
Yeah, and I think
these educational.
I think worldwide recently
videos.
there was more sales of Model Y than there was of the Toyota Corolla. So it's
Yeah, true.
It's getting up there. All right, we should probably move on to our main topic, right?
Yeah, burning EV topics. So these are literally burning EV topics. Probably a complicated topic to discuss, especially neither of us are experts in the field in terms of, battery chemical composition and thermal runaway and all that stuff, health and safety, fire hazard. None of us are expert in the field, but this was in the media lately because it is a concern. I think there's a lot of EV, what you call it, EV haters. I'm not sure what they're called, but a lot of people who doesn't support EV because of this. They sensationalize this. It is. I mean, it is a serious thing. Given that when a battery goes on fire, you can't stop it. And in this case, this Fremantle Highway. It's weird how ships are named. Sorry, they're quite confusing. This is not a highway in the middle of the ocean. This is a ship called Fremantle Highway off the coast of Netherlands. This was carrying roughly about 3,000 cars, but reports say there was only 25 EVs in the ship. But some people say it's 500, so I'm not sure which one's true. So I guess take it with a grain of salt. And all up, if all those EVs went up in flames, it's equivalent to 40 megawatt hours of energy stored in that car, roughly around 1/1000th of an atomic bomb. Of course, such a very enclosed space, you wouldn't want to be there. But it's not the explosion that actually kill you. It's the toxic fumes. They're really nasty. They say if you get exposed to the toxic fume within like a few seconds, you'll pass out. So it especially becomes very dangerous if you're in a parking lot, like a closed parking lot. It's one you see in shopping malls, in apartment blocks. If an EV goes caught fire in one of those areas, the best thing you can do is go out. Don't try to put out the fire because you can't. Once it goes in thermal runaway, you can't stop it. And probably ask people to leave the premise as well. That's the best you can do. You can't do anything. What do you think, Rich? That's
Look,
fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a serious issue, and I do know that, and I don't think we've got on the slides here, but there have been certainly some models of EVs that have had tendency to catch fire. And again, we're talking about maybe dozens out of tens of thousands of car salts. We're not talking about, every EV catching fire, but I do know the Chevy Bolt in the US had manufacturing issue with its battery pack, and there was at least a dozen fires in people's homes when it was parked. It seemed to actually happen when they were parked. So there's, you talked about them being, having your car in a garage or whatever. There's certainly a risk there. I guess the upside from my perspective for a EV fire is that it's not as explosive, is my understanding, as a EV battery fire. While they do have that thermal runaway, they just seem to sort of just keep going, but it's not that, there's not that explosion. I guess the only other positive thing about this ship, I think the one way you can help to put the fire out after thermal runaway is actually to completely immerse the battery in water. So I guess when the ship sank, that's what happened, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the ship owner would like their ship to sink in the middle of the ocean. Yeah. This particular ship is actually back in operation. I saw the in vessel finder. It's doing its run again.
Okay. All right.
And then the other interesting fact is that obviously they caught fire in the middle of the ocean. I think a month later, they were trying to get one of the EVs. I think that it was a Mercedes EQE, and it caught fire again. While this is a month later, and
it's crazy,
and that's why it's dangerous. It needs to burn through all those battery cells so that it doesn't burn again. What do we have here? This is also a recent fire that caught that happened in Sydney Airport, one of the busiest airport in Australia. This is an MG EV. And apparently the battery was already damaged, and they removed it. And obviously, I think safe to assume the person who did it is unqualified, because you can see the battery actually sitting in front of the car. So it's that square piece there, that is the battery. And if you're a qualified person, no, you wouldn't let that battery laying on the floor like that, exposed in the elements. And unfortunately, it caught fire, thermal runway, and the cars around it also got demolished. Well, sort of, it also caught fire, and that's what happened. Another unfortunate incident.
I know I think we're both DIY tinkerers. I know I won't be doing that for my battery on my car. I mean, I think if you were going to do a tally of, did this EV, initiate this fire, as in it just self-combust, or if there were some other factors that caused it to do that, I think you could probably count this one in that other column. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that MG wouldn't be advocating that the battery be taken out and just left out in the elements, right?
Yep. But it was already damaged. I think, I'm not sure how it got damaged, because this is a rental car rental company. Maybe the person who rented this car run into something and damaged the underside of the car and damaged the battery. But it could have been handled better.
Yep.
So it's cool.
Right.
So from
Megapacks.
Yep. This is a in Boulder.com, Brisbane. It's a BESS facility that has Tesla Megapacks. BESS stands for battery energy storage system. So it's I think this one has like 30 megawatt hours of combined battery. Tesla said just let it burn out because they know they can't do anything. And this is the danger here, because I think this is these batteries, Megapacks, they're like close to each other. It's lucky that none of the fire didn't spread out to the other Megapacks, but Again, we don't have a way to handle these kinds of accidents, because I don't think letting it just burn out is the right approach. Because number one, how long does it take for this to burn out? And number two, all those chemicals are spewing in the atmosphere, get carried by the wind, and it's dangerous. So we need to have a better management in dealing with these kinds of incidents, which we currently don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point about the toxins, and I guess if you look at where we are in the evolution of EVs, we're kind of in day one, if you like. It's very early days, and I know that Tesla at least have done evolutions of their cooling management systems in their batteries, and this is obviously for their cars, but it would be true for these mega packs, which are not used in cars, but are actually used to stabilize the electricity grid, right? So you would hope that they would learn, assuming that the battery actually initiated this fire, that they can learn from that and iterate. But I guess in the meantime, both, I guess the public, but in particular our firefighters need to get training on how to deal with these. If there are, but I think you do raise a good point that right now for many of them it's like just let it burn. But there's got to be a better way, right?
Yeah, it is. And what's our next one? I think from the biggest down to the smallest,
which is still EVs, right? But
yep.
Just a smaller version of it.
Yeah, and then just e-bikes have become so popular these days. I don't see the point of having e-bikes actually. I mean, the reason why you have a bike is to, I guess, traditionally to get fit. I mean, if you run a delivery business, maybe it makes sense. But if you're using this to commute, to and from work, just exercises. Do pedal power.
You know me, Bron.
Yeah, you are also. Yeah, you are a cyclist.
Bike commuter and cyclist.
You do.
Yep,
but I saw the footage. I saw the footage of this. The fire was actually very intense. It's intense with explosions actually, and again they just let it burn out. I think the fireys were watching in the background and they can't do anything. If this was in someone's garage when it happened, I think they managed to get it out of the garage. A few people I think were injured because of the explosion. I saw the news footage. There's one man who had like bandages all over his face because from the debris that got thrown out when the explosion occurred. But yeah, it's just another thing. So it comes in all shapes and sizes. EV fires.
I wonder if these e-bikes are even more sort of risky, because I know that there is a DIY market for specific e-bikes. I know you obviously can buy them ready-made, but there are people that are putting together their own e-bikes. They get batteries from wherever and then stick them onto existing bike frames. And again, so the DIY crowd may also be contributing to some of these fires. I guess I'm not suggesting all, but maybe that could be a contributing factor.
Yep, for sure. And plus, these e-bikes, they don't have four wheels. They just balance. Maybe, I don't know, maybe got knocked over, the battery sort of got damaged somehow, and then caused explosion. Could be anything. But yeah, it's a danger to everyone. It adds an element of risk, and hopefully, people in the know-how with the right influence and power would would start looking at this because there are a lot of EVs in the market now, and we need to come up with a better plan how to manage these risks.
Yeah, and I wonder if one way we do that is to look to other jurisdictions or other countries. Like one that I love to quote is Norway, where I think in August 90% of car sales were had a battery in them. I think 80% of that was pure battery, so BEVs, and the rest was hybrids. So that I think there's over 1 million cars on the road now in Norway with batteries. And they've been doing it for, they've got to that point of when 90% of new cars are now EVs. You wonder how they manage both their firefighters, manage the EV fires that they get. They must, EVs do catch fire. There is a rate. I think it's slightly lower than petrol cars. But obviously, if it's it's one of those fires that they can't put out, what are they doing in places like Norway, right?
Yeah. And well, also interesting to know the stats. How many EV fires have they had? Wouldn't be a lot, is it? Because I think there was one company or website where they publish the number of EV fires from 2010, and I think they quoted somewhere around 357. So I think it's on the next slide. So if I just move up here, I think it's around 375 for the past 13 years, and this is global. So Norway would have been part of this statistics, and would have been a safe. I guess they probably have raised awareness because if there's any country would have that sort of infrastructure or that process in place, it would be Norway, because like you said, they have the highest concentration of EVs on the road than any other market. So yeah, we'll probably need to travel up there, Toaster, and learn a few tricks. Yeah,
ready to go.
Can we drive up there? I don't think we can. You have to.
Yeah. Well, there is a guy. There is a guy that drove a VW from London to Sydney, and I think he then took it on to New Zealand. Again, it was a Golf that I think he had converted himself, and he just trickle charged the whole way. I think it took him many, many months. So it can be done, but it'd be very slow.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, right? I mean, if he DIY converted his Golf to an EV, that's risk of battery fire is greater.
Yeah.
So good on him for doing that, but unnecessary risk. You should have just bought Tesla. Pre-made.
So Ron, you asked the question at the bottom, would you buy another EV? And I think we kind of touched on this at the beginning. I'm on my second EV, so I think I've already answered the question is yes.
Yes.
And I think the next car will be an EV. We're committed. You put us in an asylum. We're in EV asylum.
Yeah. And I am too. But I think it's important to raise these awareness, because sometimes you just it's better if you're aware of the risk, so you'll do things to prevent that risk. Like, for example, if you have a petrol or an ICE car, you drove over something and you felt a bump on somewhere in the middle of the car, you probably ignore that. And if you're not aware of this, you probably also ignore that when you have an EV and that happened to you. But if that happened to you on an EV, you felt a bump because of course, you can't always drive around an obstacle. Sometimes you're stuck on that lane. You have no choice but to drive over it. First thing you need to do is get it checked, because you don't want any metal object pierce through the anode or the cathode through, and because that will start a catastrophic fire if you don't do anything. So just be aware of the dangers and try not to do any funny stuff in your car, like taking it off road without any proper equipment.
Indeed, indeed.
Yep. I think we've
So
gone
there's
43 minutes, Rich.
I know it's a record for us, isn't it?
It's a record. Well, yeah, it is. First time. Pilot.
So of our viewers, I guess we're kind of opening up the floor. I know we had a lot of greetings here, and I think Phil wanted us to touch on the charging experience, and maybe that would be a topic for another episode, as where we can go into a little bit more detail on my experience. But I guess, yeah, are there any questions out there from the viewers or comments before I guess we wrap this up? I can see the sun starting to set slowly here on the west coast now.
Oh, so jealous. We're middle of the night here. Well, not middle of the night, but yeah, we're well into the night here. It's so dark outside. But
some
RT squared.
words of encouragement here from the coach.
Yes. Yeah. We'll plan for the next live stream. RT squared. Mild pandemic was in Shark Bay this year. Did you come across mild pandemic, Toaster, on your way up there?
I do know mild pandemic, and yeah, we did talk about their trip and them wimping out. Yeah, so we finally made it. We're here for a week and enjoying the sunshine. It's been not as warm as it was in the north end of WA, but it's Lisa and I were commenting the other day that we hadn't seen rain since June, so it's been a long, dry, hot winter for us.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Although you could probably use a bit of rain to clean your car. Have you been cleaning it all throughout, or not really, just leaving it on?
Yeah, I've been trying, but it is really dirty right this second. I dare not put a camera on it.
And we've got Matthew. Thanks for joining us today. I think we'll call it a wrap. We need to have a catchphrase to close out the live stream. Toaster. We'll come up with a catchphrase, and we'll close out the live stream. We'll close the live stream now.
We will indeed, and there's a final comment there from our pandemic. I was going to say that my dongle collection is extensive. I don't know how to take that one. Maybe on that note, we do wrap it up. Huh?
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Yeah, we'll talk about charging. We'll talk about dongles on the next live stream episode. So stay tuned. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks everyone.
See you guys.